this morning, I want to talk to you a little about the new consumer and shopper DNA. I think this is probably the most exciting time to work in retail and consumer goods in the last 100 years. Things are changing so fast, so this morning I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about those changes. You all know what DNA is. It's the building blocks of who you are. It's what makes you individual. It's what makes you you. As a behaviorist, I'm more interested in the DNA of the shopper, the DNA of the consumer, and how that DNA is changing is who we are, not how we shop. If that's the only thing you remember from my speech today, which I'd be disappointed about, that's it. It is who they are. It's part of who they are. It's not a channel. And this is one of the problems, I think, with omnichannel. When we talk about omnichannel and multi-channel, our focus on digital is on the hardware, the software. It's on a channel selling stuff. We just look at it as another way to reach the shopper and consumer. And that's fundamentally wrong. These terms, digital immigrant and digital native, the digital natives are born in the 1980s and generally a sweet spot around 1985. They're turning 30 now. They're starting to have families, settle down, buy cars, buy houses. They're becoming a force in consumerism. You know, the 30 to 40-year-old demographic. So the after Googlers, again, if you were born in 1997, the same year as Google, then you're turning 18 next year. So you've got two big things happening now. You've got the digital natives all turning 30, and you've got the after Googlers all turning 18, becoming 18 to 24. Again, that golden demographic for so many brands and retailers. No question about who owns the world of tomorrow. Our future as brands and retailers lie in the hands of the digital natives. So unless we change the way we work and change the way we talk to them, we're going to be in trouble. What's interesting about the internet as an entity is that we've really got to a point now where it's a collective consciousness. It's no longer owned by the corporations at all. It's completely owned by the users. And it really is a collection of their thoughts, and it's just a collection of what they believe, a way of swapping stories. So it really is just a complete collective consciousness. In fact, I will go so far as to say the internet no longer exists, which is a bit of a broad statement. But if you talk to people who are 18, 19, 22, they don't use the word internet or web. It's not in their vocabulary. They don't use active verbs like I'm going online or surfing the web, because to them it just is. They're permanently connected. And this is how we get to hyperconnectivity. And you've seen all these pictures before. This permanent connection, you have to be connected all the time. The moment that you're not connected, you feel nervous. And this is a generation that have, again, grown up with this type of connection. And this has ramifications in all sorts of ways. Even in our industry, at the impulse checkout, it's always been a good time for that one last sale, usually for confectionery or for newspapers, maybe some over-the-counter drugs. But actually, everyone now, when they have 30 seconds to spare or a minute to spare on your own, what's the first thing you do? And you all did it this morning too when you arrived here, out there in the coffee. Even though this is a great opportunity for networking, the first thing you do when you're on your own is this. Because it's just comfortable. It's like a little comfort blanket. You think, I'm okay. I'm very busy. Probably playing Angry Birds. So the shoppers do the same. So when they get to this point in the checkout, often what we see is people on their phones, which actually kills the whole impulse nature of this space, because they're not looking at the products anymore, they're looking at their phones. In China, this is Chongqing city in China, they have a dedicated sidewalk for people on their phones. Right? So there's two sidewalks. You're on your phone, you're not on your phone. So, so you won't bump into anybody as you walk. I mean, really, have we got to this? I started thinking about this, and actually the more conversations I have with this generation, the more I understand that there is no difference between their online and offline worlds. And this path to purchase that we used to talk about, this beautiful 360-degree circle that we had, and at certain times along this path to purchase, this golden road, we'd talk to the shopper. And actually, we never talked to them, because talking is a conversation. We just shouted at them, really. So we'd shout at them on billboard, we'd shout at them at TV, on radio, in the store for sampling, we'd shout a little bit more at them. We'd interrupt them at certain points along this path to purchase. The problem with this is that we are no longer relevant. We are no longer relevant in what we say as the brand owner or as the retailer. The only people that these shoppers actually trust is their network, their own peer social network. They're permanently connected to this network, and they have absolute trust in it. And the problem with this is that most people, brand owners that I meet, think that connection is Facebook and Twitter. They say things to me like, I have a digital strategy day we're doing with them, and around, in the first hour or two, they say, no, we're okay. We have a Facebook site, and we have a Twitter, so we're connected. We're down with the kids. And just because you have a Facebook and Twitter site doesn't mean you're connected. These are just tools. I mean, this kind of like me on Facebook from a brand, it's a little creepy, I mean, the owner, the shoppers, they don't really want to be your friend to a brand. It's like a teenage disco and having a 45-year-old man standing in the corner with a big beard and a coat saying, come over here and like me. It's just, no thanks. So, I mean, brands get it wrong so often in terms of trying to connect with this new shopper. She has more power over your brand than anything you can ever imagine. And this is the changing nature of the world that we live in. Because until now, we owned our brand equity. And we owned our brand story. And from now on, you don't. Your users and shoppers own your brand. And that's just scary. In the 80s, if you were born in the 60s and 70s, you grew up in a materialistic world where you wanted the fast car and the beautiful house and the swimming pool, and you wanted things. That was the point. We were coming out of post-consumerism America, post-modernism. It was all about stuff. The next generation don't want stuff. They actually want experiences. If you give them 10,000 euros, they will travel with that money. They will go places. They will see people. They will tell stories. They want to do things that they can put up on Instagram and Facebook and say, look at me. It's all about experiencing the world. It is no longer about stuff, which again is a shift for people who sell stuff. To understand as well, if people want to collect moments, if people want to talk about stories, talk about people, the world is becoming a place of people, not stuff, then you need to use your brand as a conduit. Your brand now needs to be an experience conduit, a channel through which the shopper is going to get this experience that they need, but they're going to use your brand to get to it. And this is important. It's important now that we stop talking about our brands as to what they are in the box, but actually what they will mean to you. Whole generation who are completely self-obsessed. I think, again, as a metaphor, do you remember these things? We used to have them in our car doors. Remember what they were called? They were called maps. Do you remember them? And, you'd take it out, and you'd have a small fight with it first in your car, like this. And then eventually you get it open. Now, does anyone remember the first thing that you needed to do to make this work? Anyone like to suggest the first thing you need to do? Find out where you are. Exactly, I like it. So just because you want to get to here, but this doesn't work unless you know where you are. This is broken if you don't know where you are. So you have to find where you are first. So we have a whole generation who don't know what this is at all. Because their world is shown from their perspective all the time. They don't need to know where they are in the world. The world is shown in perspective and in relation to them. And this is a huge metaphorical mental change. We understood that we were a small part of the world, that we fitted into this world somewhere. Whereas what they do is they stand into the world and they think, right, show me. Everything is from their perspective. They are the master of the universe. They are the king of this world. They are not part of this world. They are the world. They are God. And this is how this mental shift has happened for them. And they demand that the brands and the retailers that they interact with understand this, that they are king. It has taken off. The technology helps, but actually it's taken off because this generation are self-obsessed. It's all about me. I mean, Neil Armstrong went to the moon. And he took 5 photographs. This girl went to the bathroom and took 37. The desire for personalization is becoming much more... It's no longer kind of a nice to have. Personalization is going to become a must-have in the next 5 years. The beginning of Share a Coke and personalizing with the names, it's nice. But we've got to get so far beyond that. For this generation, one size does not fit all. Everything in their life is personal. Their Spotify, their news feeds, everything they interact with is just built and curated for them. And therefore, the model of a supermarket that has all the same products laid out in the same way for everybody is broken. While drones won't exist in every city and isn't the solution, but I want you to look at this and realize that this is what the next generation want. The minute they think about wanting a product, they want it. That's the point. They want it now. Everything has to be now. And again, this causes pressure on our supply chains, because generally our supply chains are built from the 1980s. The business model certainly has several stages along the supply chain. Well, we need to get our heads around how this is going to work. Because the first question I'm usually asked is, okay, if they want this, but how are we going to make this work? You know, we have to make money as well. How are we going to do this? But the reality is you just have to do this. We're seeing more and more retailers now offering free shipping and free returns, because that's what this generation want. You know, we have to get our heads around the future of this. This sign isn't a sign that people are going to appreciate in the future. We understand this as digital immigrants. Oh, something's out of stock. They don't get out of stock. There's no such thing as out of stock for this generation. Everything is in stock. It's just somewhere else. It's not where it should be. It's not in my home, or it's not on the shelf. They don't accept this. Applications for packaging. I mean, look at our stores. Our stores still think it's the 1970s. Paper, POS, cardboard, very little moving image, very little digital. The next generation just don't understand this at all. The things they own. They share their homes on Airbnb. They share their cars on WeGo in the Netherlands. They share their clothes on Closet Swap and Rent the Runway. They even share their lawnmowers and their power tools on Neighbour Goods. So if you want a power drill, you could buy one, or you could just go on Neighbour Goods and borrow one. And this is the sharing economy. The whole generation growing up not wanting to own things, just wanting to have things when they need them. Do you remember these things? How many people here in the room still have these at home? And the people who put their hands up do it proudly. Yes. I still have my vinyl. So we had these and we loved them. We loved the touch and the feel of them and the album covers. And then when CDs came along, we thought, oh, I don't know. I don't like that. What about the sound? I want the sound of the scratchy. But then they told us, no, the CD won't scratch. And they lied. We thought, okay. And then we had these towers. You remember the tower of CDs in your house? It was like a big phallic symbol. Look at my tower. Aha, my CDs. Yeah. And you came home and you played with your CDs, and it was, look at me. Like a So, and then for our generation, when this happened, when we went to iTunes, we kind of didn't cope with this very well, because you wanted the physical CD, and now the music was trapped in your laptop and your MP3 player, but you still owned it. So that transition was hard for a lot of us, but now you don't even own the thing anymore, because now it's Spotify. Because now you don't own the track, you just use it when you want it. And this, as a metaphor, again, is a good way for this whole generation growing up who never understand, well, why would you want to own the thing when you can just pay far less and stream it when you want it? And this then has implications for every part of the consumer journey that they buy. You know, if people can make their own stuff, then they don't really value us anymore as retailers or as brands. So let me finish on this point. You know, if the conversations that you're having in your own business about digital are focusing on omni-channel or on looking at digital as a distribution strategy, you're already behind, because digital is who they are, not how they shop.